I've always loved Mega Evolutions in Pokemon. Introduced in the Generation 6 games, Pokemon X and Y, carrying on into the latter Generation 7 games, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, before being dropped in Generation 8, but hey, I don't blame Game Freak. I wouldn't want to balance them around a new, ever so game-changing Dynamax/Gigantamax gimmick. These were an insane new gimmick back in the day, giving new, more powerful forms, typically with a plus 100 to the Mon's base stat total distributed across all of its stats except HP, with a trade-off of having to hold the respective Megastone instead of just being able to do it. And the distribution on these new forms were not at all biased, given to Pokemon like Lucario, Garchomp, Charizard, Mewtwo, and Lopunny. Don't say anything. And these totally weren't game breaking at all. What do you mean Mega Rayquaza got banned from the Bantay on Smogon? Come on, they weren't that bad. No, yeah, they were pretty bad in terms of balance. Hell, a Mega Lucario was given to you for free by the time you got to the 3rd gym in Pokemon X and Y, and X and Y were already piss easy without it. Actually, for a limited time post-release of X and Y, a Blaziken with its hidden ability Speed Boost was given out for free with its Megastone. Granted, Mega Pokemon don't tend to keep their abilities from their base form, so it's not like you have a Mega Speed Boost Blaziken running around, but... oh, wait a minute! Not only that, but you also got one of the Gen 1 starters pretty early on, also with their respective Megastone. So assuming you played on release, you'd have 3 Mega Pokemon ready to go at any time. To be fair, Mega Evolution is balanced in the way that only one Pokemon can Mega Evolve per battle, a rule that also applies to the primal forms of Groudon and Kyogre that was essentially just the same thing, but even still, it was a bit much. And even despite their immense power, the Megastones were always really easy to come by, either being gifted to you or literally just being found on the ground in some cases. It wasn't until the Generation 7 games that you can only obtain them in the post-game by purchasing them with battle points in the battle tree, at least making you go through some effort to get them. Unless you're playing Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where you're probably checked out playing the Mantine Surfing minigame for the 50th time in a row to complete your collection. I suppose that was an effort too, but in a different way. Honestly, Mega Evolution should have been a thing for Pokemon that actually needed the power boost. In all fairness, someone that could have greatly benefited from one did get one, such as Medicham, Ordino, and Sableye, but when you have 2 Mega Mewtwo's and a Mega Rayquaza running around, let's be real, no one's talking about the little guys. I guess they wanted to sour the gimmick first by giving ones to the fan favourites to start, and then the lesser ones that would have genuinely benefited after, which there were a few in the original X and Y batch to be fair, and always veered towards that in its Mega distribution, but that was the last time before ZA late this year where we got new Megas. The balancing of favoritism aside, however, the idea of a Mega has always been really cool to me. An extremely powerful final form going further beyond that what was first possible, that a Pokemon has achieved through bonding with its trainer. Or at least, that's my headcanon for how Mega Evolutions work. Instead, how they work in lore is still up for debate. In Pokemon X and Y, which is also where the concept debuted, Professor Sycamore believes Mega Evolution is a direct cause of certain stones, dubbed Megastones, that were, to quote Bulbapedia, irradiated by the light of Xerneas and Evital that was fired from the ultimate weapon 3,000 years ago. Those familiar with the disappointments that were Pokemon X and Y know that the ultimate weapon is an integral part of the story of those games, with the main bad guy, Lysander, wanting to set out to use it either to create eternal life in Pokemon X, or to straight up game end everybody in Pokemon Y. Yeah, quite the contrast, huh? Point is, it's because of this otherwise oversized Chekhov's gun that Mega Evolution exists at all. Now, before I say anything else, the way we understand Mega Evolution in the games is that the Pokemon has to be holding the stone to Mega Evolve, and while I understand that from a game balancing perspective, unless it's that one Rayquaza at the end of the Doubt episode in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, this also somewhat translates over to lore as well, so that things don't feel disconnected, but this makes the whole idea kinda lame, honestly. To be fair, the bond aspect is how it's explained, and the Megastone is just a way of unlocking that power, but let's be real here, where it matters the most, i.e. the games, this isn't a thing. I guess it would have been too confusing to link it to the hidden friendship stat that's been a thing since Generation 1, or even the affection stat that Gen 6 also introduced, where, in the case of the former, some Pokemon would be able to Mega Evolve immediately, namely the ones that already evolved through friendship, like Lucario and Lopunny, and the rest just wouldn't until much later. It would be interesting, but it wouldn't be streamlined, you know? And the last thing you want to do in a series as big as this would be to overcomplicate things. In the US Delta episode at least, it's shown to have some kind of otherworldly connection, with the stones having come from meteorites, or at least originating from having them be turned into Megastones under the right conditions, which is an honestly fascinating idea, suggesting that Pokemon themselves maybe weren't always native to the planet, something we've kind of seen in Pokemon that reside in space like Minior or even Deoxys, both of which still fall under the category of Pokemon anyway, and not to mention the infamous Ultra Beasts instead residing in different dimensions. Because Because for as much as it could just be explained away as Pokemon are magical creatures, anything's possible, it's definitely more interesting to spark debate about the true origins of Pokemon this way. Point is, I much prefer the implied bond aspect of Mega Evolution instead of the MacGuffin aspect of Mega Evolution. And through that belief, I thought about what other Pokemon I would like to see have a Mega Evolution. And with Pokemon Legends ZA on the horizon, which is set to reintroduce Mega Evolution to the series, hopefully giving the idea some new lore, but this is a series for children, and children's media in recent years has been on the rapid decline, so I'm not expecting much, but regardless, I think now's the time to talk about it. According to some leaks, we've already got every new Mega Evolution confirmed. I am about to show the leaks, so if you want to avoid spoilers, then skip to the timestamp you can see on screen now. But if not, I suggest you take it with a pinch of salt, as you should with anything that's not officially confirmed. Especially with the Pokemon community, which is pretty synonymous for having an avid leak subculture, but one that's in a really cool rabbit hole at that. So anyway, yeah, here's what we have, and yeah, I can vibe with a lot of these. If anything, it'll be fun to finally see a Dragonite as a held item, and a Phalanx Mega Evolution could be really fun if it's just more little guys. But the presence of Greninja and Zygarde in here is throwing me off. Like, we have alternate, more powerful forms for both of these Pokemon, Ash Greninja and Complete Zygarde. I suppose in the former's case, the devs want something a little more official, after it was already in the games for a limited time, but the latter's going to be weird. They could just retcon Complete Zygarde to be its Mega Evolution, because it has nothing else going for it in the lore otherwise, I guess, but I feel like that's the easy way out, and retconning never goes well, but I suppose Complete Zygarde didn't exist until Generation 7, but that means they would retcon most things in and from X and Y, which ZA will supposedly be prequels to, so maybe they could rewrite it by saying it was a result of the blast from the Ultimate Weapon 3000 years ago? Why is this series such a mess? Potential damaging retcons aside, there are some interesting choices here, but like I said, it's best to take these with a pinch of salt. So for the time being, I thought it'd be fun to speculate on some potential other Mega Evolutions, or rather just ones I would like to see, because remember whose domain you're in here? Domain expansion. Passion dumping ground. I don't care if JJK is not relevant right now, I made the reference because I can't think of anything else other than that when I mentioned the word domain. Q-Front in the room, I've already done this video before, or at least a version of it, super early into the channel's existence, where I went over my top 5 most wanted Mega Evos, all with stolen art. I'm so sorry. To make this more interesting, I want to go over one Pokemon from each generation, so there isn't just ones from my biases, Gens 4 and 5. And for the sake of avoiding potential redundancy, I'm not choosing any Pokemon that appear in the leaks. I want to keep things unique. Oh, and because I'm not insane, I won't be choosing any legendary Pokemon because, yeah, I want to see a Megasus Primal Giratina, but I have to be fair. Also, full disclosure, none of the art for the Megas I will be showing here belongs to me, so I will be crediting them somewhere on the screen, even if their credit already appears in the piece. I strongly recommend you do go check the artists out if you like any piece in particular, they're all so good, honestly. To start, for as much pandering as Generation 1 still gets to this day, granted less so than it once was, I do still need to pick one Pokemon that I think should get one, and I'm honestly torn between Arcanine and Lapras. Both of these are fan favourites to some extent, so I'm arguably a hypocrite for my favoritism criticism, but that aside, I think I'm leaning more towards Lapras because I feel like it's less pandered to, given how Arcanine has at least had its history in form in the past few years, and Lapras surprisingly has nothing. Oh, wait, it got a Gigantamax form in Sword and Shield. Ah, who cares, that gimmick blows. Looks cool though. So yeah, I think Lapras is a decent candidate for a Mega, after all, at least in terms of its battle prowess, while it's not awful, being very well rounded. I think it could be funny to take the Mega Aggron approach, where you just make it an even warrior wall. Like, give it an extra 40 in both its base defensive stats, take like 20 off its base speed stat, because last I checked, walls don't tend to move fast, and I don't know, the remaining 40 to its special attack. If my math seems off there, it's because the 20 I subtracted from speed gets added back to the pot of plus 100 to a Pokemon's base stats total when it Mega Evolves. I know you might put that one together yourself, but it's just to cover my bases. The Water type tends to be bulky already, but considering Lapras is saddled with the Ice type, the weakest type in terms of defenses, the extra physical defense should help against the fighting and rock types it'll totally run into. Aura farming against Mega Aggro on anyone? Plus, give it the Snow Warning ability. Hail, or Snow as it's now called, works differently as of Generation 9, raising Ice type's physical defense by 50% for a minimum of 5 turns, unless cleared, no longer chipping away at a non-Ice type, so Lapras can be even more of a wall. Yippee! Into Generation 2, the one they're starting to pander more towards in recent years, you know what would be a kind of out of the blue one, but also one I just think would be neat? Noctowl. Yeah, I've always just kind of liked Noctowl. I don't think it's outstanding in battle or anything, but I've always just kind of vibed with it. And to be fair, that lack of being good is exactly why I think it needs a Mega. Now, looking at its base stats, it screams walls. Should have named this video Oops or Walls or something. Spoilers ahead of time, I suppose. But given the fact it's, well, an owl, and owls tend to be pretty fierce hunters, even despite their overwhelming cuteness, I think it could benefit from higher offensive stats. Namely its special attack, because its physical attack is beyond saving. Here's what I'm thinking. Plus 30 to both its special attack and special defense, but plus 40 to its speed. And give it the psychic typing as well, so that it's a psychic flying type. Because let's be honest, it's always kind of screamed psychic type. At least to me anyway. As for its ability, I want something befitting of it being an owl, but I just don't want to reuse any of its existing ones, including its hidden ability. So how about Neuroforce? Nah, I'm kidding. I didn't even know that existed until the time of writing this. Instead, how about Adaptability? This powers up moves the same type as the user, so anything psychic or flying type in this case. I feel it gives it that bit more of an edge. Looking at this Leakian, I've noticed there's not a single Generation 3 Pokemon on here, despite every other gen up to 8 being represented. It's probably more because Generation 3 has a huge chunk of them already, thanks to Auras, namely. But you've still got a few Gen 1s on here, so pinch of salt and all that. But anyway, as for Generation 3, it is a tough one, and who am I kidding? I want to Mega Evo for Tropius. Please, Game Freak, give my underrated boy something! As you can tell, I vibe hard with Tropius, likely because it's a dinosaur, a brontosaur to be exact, and I used to adore dinosaurs as a kid. I used to have these really cool big Stegosaurus and T-Rex figures that I got from my uncle one year on Christmas, and God, I miss those so much. I really wish I kept them around. They were so cool. The passage of time is a cruel one. Well, anyway, yeah, Tropius. I've always wanted this Pokemon to be better, and while it definitely exists, usually succumbing to a HM donkey in older games, it's by no means viable in the slightest. And I've done it again, where I've picked another Pokemon that is of the Walling variety, so you can probably immediately see where I'm going to go with this one. Plus 40 to both its defensive stats, and plus 20 to its special attack. I'll be real, I'm not going to be able to creative in the stat distribution a lot of the time. Instead, I would prefer to use more rounded numbers and not like a plus 32 or something. Typing wise, I think we've got to ground this specimen. That's probably the best pun I'll ever make, and I U-turned into it from my original idea. Wow. Regardless, while it maintains its 4 times weakness to ice and its 2 times weakness to flying, bug and fire, it now only takes little damage from the rock and poison types, so anything to be a little more defensive. Ability wise, I want to go with Super Sweet Syrup, which lowers the opponent's evasiveness upon entering the battle, which I assume would take effect when Mega Evolving into Mega Tropius, purely because I remember having a Tropius several times that would use the move Sweet Scent in the field to make finding Pokemon easier. In the DS games, which are infamous for their higher encounter rates. I was likely looking for something specific, but either way, it could be fun and would be especially good in double battles, so yeah, time to give Tropius a niche. Ooh, Generation 4 time. This one is difficult for me because of my bias towards the generation. Obviously feeling like there are so many good candidates here, but I think I'm going to go with Yanmega, generally just for the fact I think Mega Yanmega sounds funny. I'm a simple man, I'm sure you can tell. Drapion would have been a decent shout too, because I just really like Drapion, but that would probably fall into the wall category again, let's be real here, so I want to keep things fresh. Looking at its stats here, I want to go all in. Plus 30 to its special attack, a huge plus 50 to its speed, and I don't know, plus 10 to both its defensive stats? Sure, why not? And you know what, for pure shits and giggles, keep its speed boost ability as well, boosting its speed by 1 stage, up to 6 stages each turn. Seems overkill, but you gotta let me have some fun here. And you know, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this one, make Yanmega the first bug dragon type. Yes, I know dragonflies aren't exactly dragons and that's just a species name, but who cares? It doesn't mean you have to ground Yanmega either by taking away its flying typing. Think about Beedrill. It visibly flies around, yet it's a bug poison type. We're into my favourite generation now, and while it'd be easy for me to give a Mega to the Destroyer of Worlds that is Darmanitan and turn it into a Destroyer of Galaxies, as well as Liepard, which holds a special place in my heart, I want to go with Druddigon instead. Drud here is another one of those Pokemon for me that I just kind of vibe with. I suppose in its case, it's the design. I think it looks really cool and exactly like something you'd probably find deep in a cave towards the end of an adventure. Convenient because that's how it usually is. But I think it needs something to really stand out on its own amongst the other amazing dragon types out there. Same generation as Hydreigon, by the way, so yeah, not exactly an even playing field. So first, take 20 points off its speed. Yep, make this thing slow. But in return, let it run wild with a plus 30 in its attack, and a plus 50 in its physical defense, and a plus 40 in its special defense stats. Like, that's a fucking beast. Forget being hit by a truck. When it does get to move, though it would greatly benefit from Trick Room and Double Battles, it's going to make sure you know about it. Plus, it's going to need good defensive stats if it's going to take 3 to 5 business days to move in the first place, so, you know. I know the idea kind of reeks of Wall again, but I can't help it, man. A lot of the Pokemon I just kind of like happen to be of the Wall variety, despite me not really enjoying that battle approach. And you know, let it keep sheer force while it's at it, which removes additional effects of moves like status conditions and such, to deal even more damage. Here, go do a crime on the metagame. Into Generation 6, the absolutely not most disappointing generation. Okay, I won't put you through my passive aggressiveness, I'm sorry. Regardless of my feelings, given the much smaller roster of new additions in Gen 6, which was most likely down to the Mega Evolutions being introduced, they probably didn't want to crowd the gen too much, but either way, it is easier to choose a Pokemon as a tribute, and I think it should be Gogoat. Gogoat was kind of all over the marketing flex and wise, showcasing how you could now ride on Pokemon, but only in specific areas. Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball with that one. But hey, Gogoat had some relevance for a while because of it being a centerpiece of the generation, at least in my eyes. And it's just kind of a neat Pokemon, honestly, so why not give it a Mega for some extra overdue love? And you know what? I want to be a little more creative here with the stat distribution. A plus 30 to its physical attack and the physical defense, a plus 10 to its special attack, a plus 20 to its special defense, and plus 10 to its speed. Otherwise basic numbers, I know, but hey, every stat gets something this time. I think those are some pretty solid base stats if I do say so myself, and give it Defiant as well, which sharply raises its physical attack when any stat is lowered, because, well, goats are pretty defiant creatures, especially when it comes to the laws of physics. There are only a few left to go now, so heading on into Generation 7, I was initially thinking Mudsdale because I just really like Mudsdale, but I think there's only one obvious candidate for a Mega, mostly because I think it would be fun. Mimikyu. Mimikyu is a fan favourite at this point, thanks to the fact it's an actually unique take on the Pikachu clone that we seem to get every new generation, and somewhat endearing by extension, despite the unspeakable horrors that are most likely hiding beneath that even the Pokédex alludes to. But just look at it, what do you want to hug that thing? Oh, pretty cool, right? Now, I think we should go all in on offense for this one. As mentioned in several Dex entries, something is hiding beneath this cloth that resembles Pikachu, but no one has lived to tell the tale. So my headcanon is that it's an extremely powerful entity. So in that case, and in actually using the fan art for reference here, a massive plus 60 to its physical attack, minus 40 from its physical defense, a massive plus 50 to its special attack, and a generous plus 30 to its speed stat. Terrifying, right? We can dispose of the fairy type because it's kind of lost a bunch of its whimsy at this point, so instead make it a ghost dark type and give it a new ability called Fear. This is essentially a combination of the abilities Pressure and Stench, where Mega Mimikyu will triple the PP usage of opponents and they have an insane 50% chance to flinch. For reference, Pressure doubles the PP usage and Stench is only a 10% chance of the opponent flinching. That sounds like I went overboard, like am I trying to make the next Ultra Crossbow fight or something, but for real, this is all just for fun at the end of the day, so it doesn't hurt to go extreme sometimes. Well, that was that, but we're almost there now. So into Generation 8, how about Regidrago? Ha! As if. So Generation 8 is a weird one because it's technically split across two games, well, 3 being Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus, but to be honest, picking something like Mega Weirdeal wouldn't work because it's a Mega of a regional based evolution, which would only complicate things, so just sticking to a roster of entirely new Pokemon, obviously disregarding these 5, I want to go with Dubwool, mainly because I think the little subplot with Hop and his Wooloo in Swish is really sweet, and I think the Mega Fluffy Football could do with some love. I'd say just go all in with the defense for this one, so yes, another wall, how original, but it is what it is. So plus 20 in its physical attack and plus 40 in both its defense stats, but take off 10 points from its speed and put that remaining 10 into its special attack because why not? I ain't great at this balancing thing, I'll be real. Again, using the fan art as a reference here, turn it into a dark type, but also give it the fairy type because I think these wings here give it a bit more whimsy. As for its ability, I was thinking the stamina ability, where if it gets hit, its physical defense will raise by 1 stage. It's a fun little ability to have on a wall, so why not? I should have put the stamina ability on Gogoat now that I'm thinking about it. Ah well, no big deal. It's not like I can rewrite the script or anything. And last but not least, Generation 9. I will admit I'm still unfamiliar with Generation 9, though I do at least know the basics, but it's not like I know it like previous gens, you know? So when it comes to Pokemon I think deserves a Mega, it's hard to say, but I'm very much veering towards Tinkaton. A cute little menace to society that is the predator of Corviknight and wields a giant hammer that's like twice its size. Yeah, that sounds fun. Have you ever looked at Pokemon stats and asked, what the hell happened here? Because that's essentially what I did when I laid my eyes on Tinkatons here. Like, you're telling me it's hunted to Gen 8 metagame with these stats? I don't see it. Granted, I don't see how Corviknight became the metagame in Gen 8, but I don't know about competitive Pokemon, as I'm sure I put on display throughout this video and this entire channel's existence so far. But hey, that's why we're here, right? To give a Pokemon a Mega to make it viable. And for that, I think it's best to just keep it well-rounded. Plus 30 in both its physical attack and physical defense, plus 20 in its special attack, and then just plus 10 in its special defense and speed stats. I honestly want to give it a new ability too, which I'm calling Tinkerer, fitting I know. This will randomly raise any of its stats when it's hit by a physical attack. I think it's a fun little thing to have a Tinkerer make changes on the fly, but still keep it balanced somewhat with a degree of randomness. As if balancing has meant anything to me up until this point. Well, I guess that brings us to the end now. My inability to end the video even after almost a decade aside. Whatever new megas we get in ZA, and if the leak is accurate, it'll be a fun time getting to see some of our favourites get new, awesome looking powerful forms, just as it was back in the day. I'm not sure if I'll be picking up ZA yet. That latter half of the year is pretty packed for me in terms of releases, but if I do, maybe I'll cover it like I did with BDSP back when that was new. But no promises. Well, unless Mega Charizard Z goes crazy. You know Game Freak totally would.